Hello everyone, this is Merrill from The Gathering, and this is my next story. Many years ago I was dating a man who I eventually married. This man was French and he didn't have any other family members in Australia. We'd been going out for about 2 months and he invited me around to his place for dinner. It was an enjoyable evening, a lovely meal, a glass of wine. When I looked over my future husband's shoulder and I saw a very clear and distinct figure standing behind him. Now mind you, my future husband lived on his own, so I was absolutely startled to see a figure standing right behind Bernard. Bernard had not told me a whole lot about his family life back in France, only that, sadly, when he was about 5 years old, his father had committed suicide. There were 4 boys, so his mother was left to raise the 4 boys on her own. Bernard never did find out why this happened, how it happened, and nobody would ever talk about it. Even as a grown man, not one family member would ever tell their reasons why or what exactly happened. It was just kept a secret for his entire life. So apart from knowing that he had 3 other brothers, one who had mysteriously disappeared many years before, he left the home one day in France and never ever returned. After filing police reports and doing searches, he was never found again and never heard from again. So that was a double tragedy in this family. I had never seen any photos of Bernard's parents or his siblings. He was very closed-mouthed about it, and I understood this and never pushed him. Whilst I was at his place for dinner, as I was saying earlier, I just looked up and saw this very clear, older gentleman. An older version of Bernard. Grey-haired, a grey moustache. And this man had his hand held out to me. The odd thing was that behind the man, even though we were in the home of Bernard, behind this man I could see a beach, the sand, the ocean, and a very old wooden rowing boat. I could see it clearly. I could even hear the waves crashing on the shore, even though we were inside Bernard's home. This man kept trying to say something to me, although I could not hear any words, but I could see him mouthing something, and he kept trying to give me something. In his hand there was something he urgently needed me to have. Bernard, my future husband, looked at me and saw that I wasn't paying attention to him, that I was looking off into the distance. I could hear him asking me what was wrong, but I was too transfixed on what I was seeing. I then turned to him with shock, and I did not know what to say. I really did not know what to say to him. After thinking about it for a few minutes, I asked him what his views were on anything of the supernatural or the afterlife, and he was very open-minded about it, and it was something that we had never discussed before. Now, these sorts of things have only happened to me a few times in my life. It's not a regular occurrence at all. So I decided to tell him, and I told him about the old man standing next to an old wooden boat on the shore with the beach in the background. His eyes grew large and he said, "I think that's my dad." And I said, "Why? Why do you think it's your dad? Didn't your dad die as a young man?" Because in my way of thinking, and I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, I just thought that if a person died at a certain age, they stayed at that age. But this was an elderly gentleman. Bernard said, "I think that is my father." And I said, "But why?" He said, "Because my father was a boat builder, and he used to build wooden rowing boats and fishing boats." He said not only that, but his job was a builder on a ship called La France. We then went to the computer and he googled this ship, La France, and I saw all the history of the making of this ship, where his father did indeed work until the ship was built. Bernard then went into the bedroom and brought out an old wedding photo. In this photo was his mother and his father, very young of course, on their wedding day. The man I saw standing behind Bernard was not this man, although the looks were very similar. The man I saw was much older, and as I said, with grey hair and a grey moustache. Then we got talking about his missing brother, who would have been about the age of the man that I did see standing behind Bernard. We talked well into the night, and I could still see the vision of this man in the living area of the house of my future husband. This person kept fading in and out, and I could still see the hand reaching out to me, trying to give me something. I never ever figured out what it was he was trying to give me. But the only conclusion that we came to at the end of a long night of talking was that it could possibly have been his missing brother, who was now deceased, and was trying to impart a message for me to give to Bernard, knowing that I was open to these sorts of things. Bernard and I eventually got married, and occasionally the same scenario would play out in the same room. The old man standing behind Bernard, and even though he kept trying to turn around to have a look, he could never see anything. This man standing in front of an old wooden boat on the beach kept trying, and each time I saw him, the extending of the hands trying to give me something seemed more urgent each time. Several times I dreamt of the same thing as well. Sadly, we could never figure out what it was that this man was trying to give me, whether it was a message to give to Bernard that his brother had now passed on and was with his father. That's what we decided to believe in the end. Bernard did ring his mother in France and tried once again to see if she would give him any information about his father's death, but she still would not open up. Maybe it was too painful for her, but I believe that at his age, I think he should have had a right to know, but that was her decision. I dreamed of this man many, many times over the years, until eventually the dreams just stopped. I think we just like to believe that the brother that did go missing was indeed deceased, and for some reason he chose me to try and give a message to his brother that he was now with his father, because the showing of the boat and the ocean and the beach was what his father did and loved. And that's the message that I decided was meant to be given to Bernard. Just to add on to this story, When we were Googling the ship that Bernard's father was part of building, there was a singer, or is still a singer, in France called Michel Sardou, if I've pronounced that correctly, and he made quite a hit with a song called La France, and it's there on YouTube if anybody would like to Google it. It's sang in French, of course, but that song has always had a special meaning to me. So if anybody would like to Google La France, there's the story of the building of the ship, and there is also a beautiful song by Michel Sardou.